I've talked about Winchester struggling with their money ever since it came out that their financial officer was not allocating funds correctly. And a lot of great people in the town of Winchester are speaking out that they want to do something. Like this woman here, in the second half of the article. The community is not invested in the school system and it's hurting the kids. Pam Frazier, who's been in Winsted for 19 years, says she is okay with supplemental tax, but she doesn't think the rest of the people living there can afford it. So that's one issue. There was talk about people getting loans for the town in order to pay for things, and that doesn't seem fair, that it wasn't their fault that the funds weren't used appropriately. One person, I believe it was Marianne, welcome, said, "This is not like we've been negligent. We have been duped by the former finance director. Who would ever suspect this? Unfortunately, now we have to pick up the pieces. I can't believe that the State Department of Education can't give a little to help us over this. We are working very diligently." And I believe that. Part of my belief is stemming from their laying off of paraprofessionals, but bringing them back without being able to provide for them because they need them. It's important. And someone is Danny is comparing this financial situation to a home that doesn't have a lot of money. He says, someone's giving you an allowance every Friday, but because the home can't afford to give you an allowance in order to provide the necessities of food and clothing and what have you, they're taking that back. But it says the family budget, it's not funded. So instead of paying for food and clothing, like I said, maybe they're paying for illegal things, and I'm not going to go into that not appropriateness, but that's basically what happened to the residents of Winchester, and it's not fair. And then also in the article it talks about the idea of funding normally distributed in May being advanced in order to keep the schools open, but the state is afraid that this could be illegal. Who cares if it's illegal if it keeps a school running until it can get its bearings again after a tragedy such as somebody basically stealing money? I don't think I should say basically. It was stealing money. So, can Connecticut and Winchester be helped by us just allocating Winchester the money that they're due in May? And let's see a prospectus on how they plan on spending that money. Maybe that can show us how they're going to move forward from this incident. If you agree with me, I'd love to hear your comments. If you disagree with me, please give me some insight as to what you think Winchester should do. I'm getting really sick and tired about talking about test scores. Test scores, test scores, test scores. In all of my teaching education classes, they have all said that tests need to be relevant to the workload. They need to be accurate and everything else relating to real world situations. test scores that are mentioned in SAT, CAPT, CMT, other tests, what have you, are arbitrary, to say the least. And I'm not sure if I agree with Sean Rinn of Wyndham, talking about Special Master Stephen Adamowski, if I pronounced that correctly, I hope. I'm ski too, yes skis. But I agree that Ms. Ortiz is not at fault for the failing scores. She has done a phenomenal job, according to the article, of everything that she's tried to instill in the students and in the whole of the Board of Education for all of Wyndham. So I hope that his message, Sean Rinn's message, gets across that it's not Miss Ortiz's fault. I hope you see this, Ms. Ortiz, and I hope that you know you're doing a great job. Keep it up. Keep trying. It's sometimes like banging your head against a brick wall, but you gotta do it. Now I want you all to close your eyes and think back to a time, if you're a younger sibling, where you watched your older sibling go into school, and how enthralling and exhilarating that was. I'm a younger sibling, and I watched my sister get on the school bus every day, and I was so upset that I couldn't go too. So when my mom's back was turned after my sister got on the bus and the door was still open, I crawled up to the second step, and she turned around and snatched me back. But I was so excited because that's the way my family works. I'm upset to read that there had to be a grant to boost school attendance, not in high school like I'm usually reading about or usually hearing about, but in kindergarten. This article is about New Britain, and I've worked in New Britain, and I love the students there, I love the faculty there. Kindergarten substitute teaching was a blast, but to hear that there was so much dramatic and chronic absenteeism in kindergartners, I was appalled and shocked. I think I've said that multiple times, shocked. Gotta stop saying that one word. The Community Foundation wants to sustain what they had last year and be thankful and keep it going this year. They aren't really looking at legitimate illness or death in the family, although for the community look, I'd think that that would be interesting to try and pinpoint why are there so much illness in one family or one region or one age bracket, and why would there be so many deaths in the family. Older, I understand. Younger, is it gang related, what have you. Families let school attendance falter simply because it doesn't seem important. How is it possible that so many people don't feel school's important? I guess I grew up in sort of a privileged area with a privileged family that believed in education, and my boyfriend grew up in a family that believed education's important, yes, but don't neglect your physical body, because that work that you can do there is always sustainable. People always need houses built, cars fixed, lawns and things taken care of, etc., etc. So, getting back to the meat and potatoes of the article, they want them to be engaged learners at kindergarten levels. And in the second half of the article, Sometimes they make home visits to see what the underlying reason is. Maybe it's transportation, or maybe it's domestic violence. I'd really hope and pray that neither of those are the issue, because A, part of the legal proceedings of education being free and appropriate public education is that there are school buses to take these students to school. Now, if it's an outplacement where that student lives in an area that that bus does not go to because that bus goes to one school and that child is now going to a different school further away, a lot of school systems will provide transportation, small bus or otherwise, to get that student to school. So where is this transportation issue coming from? I don't want to think about the second half of that sentence. Domestic violence, no, I don't want to think about it. So let's hope and pray that that's not the issue, and DCF is way too filled with issues that they need to deal with. So please, no more. Can we please talk about another happy, upbeat thing? Yes? Good. In Glastonbury, they used grant money to get application for iPad, iPod, anything of the I variety. Ha ha ha. Using that grant, students, parents, faculty, and staff can see all of the who, what, when, where, how, blah, blah, blah of the school. And I've highlighted in the article the various things that the application can help with. You can view calendars. You can add special events to calendars. You can find faculty contact info, get important documents, access quick links to resources, and receive notifications. And the way that the testimonies about this application are written means that everywhere we're getting to be more technologically savvy as a communicative group of society. So if we're using these applications, it's just reinstilling in these students that yes, this is where we're headed, and you have the ability to learn it while you're still working with us prior to entering the real world, if you want to call it that. So I'm happy with Alan A. Bookman for getting these applications for students. They're free, which goes with FAPE, free and appropriate public education, and they are available on the application Apple Store and Google Play. So anybody who has these things, and all students have their iPads from school, should be able to access them. I'm happy for Glastonbury, and I wish I could work there. Lastly, I've talked about various places to look for articles, and while I've mostly looked at the Hartford Courant, what about the home and real estate part of the paper? There's a little article, not so little, about for homeowners, schools can be a selling point. And author Kenneth Harney is discussing the possibility of certain homes being more pricey based on being closer to a desirable school district than those that are of similar size and capacity. But he also argues that depending on the study, the people who are doing these observations may not look at all of the essential data. as you know, when you look at houses, you're not just looking for a good school district. You're looking for size, you're looking for walkability around the layout of the house. You are looking at closeness to highway, noise pollution, light pollution, crime rates. You're looking at closeness to grocery stores, shopping centers. There's so much to look at, but I chose to look at this article because it specifically is talking about schools. And while it is true that it can range tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars different for a more desirable location, the validity of the article is yet to be determined. So thank you, Kenneth, for showing us that there are more variables to look at, and choosing a home is essential in the way that you as a family work together and communicate, and the way that your children are raised both in an academic and non-academic, more social setting.